Hello everybody, it's Alex once again, and I just want to do another top 5-ish list of my favorite controllers. Now, well, I did my top 5 favorite consoles. Might as well just do, controllers now. Now, some of these controllers may be thinking, how could they possibly be higher than the other? Well, let's just get to that. So, let's start off with number 5, and that would be Sega Genesis controller. Now, why is this number 5, you may be asking? Well, let's start with the design of the controller. It looks like the Batarang, something Batman would use, perhaps. And the way you hold it, there's these little grip things, basically, where you can hold your hands in, and the controller's big enough for, hands for adults, teenagers, because Sega Genesis is marketed for older kids instead of kids that grew up with the NES, ages, 5 to 10 kind of things, more like the cool kids, So they had a bigger design thought for it, except for the 6-button controller, which was like as big as a Super Nintendo controller. And it has 3 buttons, you got A, B, C. These work great for platforming games in terms of responsiveness and all that. The D-pad right here, now this is the best D-pad I've ever used in my entire life, next to the PlayStation ones, because when you set your thumb in there, it ain't moving. It's going to stay right there and responsive, like the response it has between the pushes in, whenever the reaction time is quite precise. So this D-pad is fantastic, and the start button. But the only problem I have with this is with Mortal Kombat and Fighters and some other games on the Sega Genesis and Sega 32X and Sega CD, sometimes this doesn't pause. I have one game, it's Pitfall for the Genesis here, obviously. Pause doesn't pause, it like switches your weapon, so you need a 6-button controller in order for it to work correctly. Other than that, fantastic controller, great for platformers. So, now on to number 4. I kind of had a hard time deciding between this, but, I think I has it. So, number 4 is Sega Dreamcast controller. Now my screen locks all reversed, so it looks like the thumbstick is on the right instead of the left. But anyway, the Sega Dreamcast controller. Now, I do have a white one, but it's currently plugged in because I'm playing Phantasy Star Online. Ooh. Anyway, so why is this number 4? Well, because look at the design. It's so friggin' weird. Now let's take these out real quick so it doesn't look, you can actually see the controller. Now, it looks weird. I mean, it looks like the Sega Saturn 3D controller. Now, you're probably surprised that you didn't see that on there. Well, too bad. The shape is pretty nice. Now, Sega is the first company to make triggers in general. So, yeah, Microsoft, you were not first. Or Xbox fanboys, Microsoft was not first. Sega was first. So, you got your nice trigger buttons on the back, and they respond very well. Except when you have your hand on the your thumb there, and you're pushing at the same time, it just gets kind of awkward. If you have a Dreamcast and you play it, you know what I'm talking about. So, let's go to the buttons. A, B, X, Y, they respond very nicely. They feel good, too. They don't feel cheap. They feel pretty solid for buttons that are made in 1998. Well, 99 for America, everyone else. And then you get your thumbstick. Now, the thumbstick is quite questionable. It's like, sometimes I like it, sometimes I hate it. I like it for the fact that it responds very well, and it just works well. 2 disadvantages, though, is the material it's made out of. It's made up of hard plastic, so your thumb can easily slip off of it, or finger in this case. And when you rotate, you feel like individual clicks as you're moving it around, so it doesn't feel smooth like a PlayStation or a Xbox 360 controller can feel. So, yeah, it's a little weird. Then you got your D-pad. Now, the D-pad itself, it's not too bad. A lot of people complain that it's really bad, but, unlike the 360 D-pad, it actually has directional arrows. Woo! But I think it's really good. It works for what it needs to work for. Now your start button. Ooh, oh, another disadvantage is these don't click in. But this doesn't click in. That would be nice. Start button, whatever. So the only disadvantages are this doesn't click in, this D-pad could be a little bit better, and it doesn't have a select button and a second thumbstick. That would be nice. Now one of the cooler things about it is little VMUs here. These are basically memory cards, visual memory units, and they used to play mini games on here if you had enough space for them. Basically, in Power Stone 1, from our kind of friends at Capcom. Well, not really friends anymore. You would download a minigame from Power Stone. Say it's Falcon's. It's some like flying minigame. Basically, download it. You play it on here, and it takes up pretty much the entire memory card. And these run off lithium batteries, so they're not going to last long. There is a mod to make it run off of AA batteries, but I don't know how to do that, and I don't have time for that. So basically what you do is you don't need batteries in here for it to work to save your games. Basically just go like this, and there you go. So you get a little picture on there when you're playing a game, like say you're playing Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Adventure 1. Well, with Sonic Adventure 1, when you're doing things in there, you see a child walking, and depending on what you're doing, it'll kind of correspond to what you're doing. Sonic Adventure 2, it just shows the character face, what you're playing, what character you're playing as. So you're playing as Sonic, it'll show Sonic's picture. It's pretty interesting. It's just experiment with it. It's pretty cool. And, I forgot one disadvantage. It didn't have built-in rumble, so I can take another slot out and put it in the back. Now this is a Mad Catz Rumble pack, or jump pack, and this actually works really well. Like, it vibrates a lot. And the cord comes out the bottom, which is a disadvantage, but you can do this. Clip it on the back, so it's not coming out at the bottom. Very nice, Sega. Very nice. So, besides that, moving on to number 3, if I can count. Well, for the most part, I can count. I'm gonna put some background music in this, so it's not dead silent the entire time, because kind of boring, unless you hear my Dreamcast going out, because that thing's fucking loud. Anyway, going on to number 3 is the Gamecube controller. Why is this higher than the Dreamcast one? Well, for one, the buttons and the design of the controller. Now, with the design of the Dreamcast controller over there, if you hold it for a long period of time, it just cramps your hands up. But with this, it feels perfect. You will not your hands will not get tired for lightness, which is what I'm looking for in a controller. You got your thumbstick right here, which has a rubber padding on it, so it makes your thumb will stay on that. And it has little indents there, as you can see, around the entire thumbstick. So when you're holding up, it's not going to move like as easily around. Unlike the Dreamcast, where say you want to hold forward in say Sonic Adventure, because they're both ported to the GameCube and the Dreamcast. If you want Sonic just to go forward on Dreamcast, he kind of jitters left and right a little bit, because you can't tell exactly where forward is. On GameCube, you know where it is. You can tell. Just not even looking at the controller. You're like, oh yeah, that's up right, up left, whatever direction we're going. Now the C-stick basically has the same layout as the thumbstick, but that could have been like the better, or just a bigger camera stick. But it works for what it does. You got your D-pad, and the D-pad itself it's good, but it's small. It needs to be. The original prototype had a bigger D-pad, but I don't know. This should have been bigger. Start button, pretty good. This should have been a select button, but that's just me. Then you got your A, B, X, Y buttons. Now these are pretty cool. They got different colors to let you know what is what, except for the X and Y buttons. When you're new to the GameCube, it's kind of confusing at first, but when you play it for years on end, you're like, yeah, I know which is which, whatever. So they work fine, whatevers. You got your Z button, that's just used for certain things, menus and stuff. Then you got your L and R buttons. Now they have a little design where your your fingers will basically stay in there. They aren't going to slide out too easily, but they just rest in there very nicely. And the design, it's fantastic. If you've ever held a GameCube controller, you can tell it's fantastic. Great for Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Melee. Don't you ever forget that. So that was number 3. Now number 2. Now I might just reveal it there. You might be surprised it's not number 1, but here we go. The PlayStation 3 controller. You may be wondering, why is it number 1? I thought you were a big Sony fan. I'm a big Sony fan. Don't you deny that. Bigger fan than Microsoft, because you know how Microsoft is right now. Now, why is this number 2? Well, the design itself is very nice. I can hold it comfortably, etc., etc. It's not too hard to hold. It's very comfortable. And then you have your buttons as well. Buttons are a big thing with controllers. If they don't feel right, then it's going to be a pain in the ass to play your games. D-pad is fantastic. There's separate buttons, and it's like, oh yeah, it's good for fighters, for platformers, and it's pretty good, even though Xbox fans love to say the 360 D-pad's better, which I think is a lie. So yeah, this is a hell of a lot better than the other D-pads I've used in a long time, and it responds very well. Then you got your trigger buttons up on the top, L1, R1, and R2, L2. Very nice buttons. Better than the PS2 controller. Then you got your thumbsticks. Now they pretty much are very smooth, very loose, in the good way. It's not like they're broken. Very nice. Clickable thumbsticks, finally. Start and select buttons, yes. PlayStation Home button, basically, to the main menus, etc., etc. Then you got your X, square, circle, triangle. Yeah, everything's reversed. Let's screw me over here. Nice buttons. They respond very nicely. Nothing much more to say there. And it's wireless, so there's no cords and all that fiasco stuff to do. Blah, blah, blah. And if you use this controller, be a little careful because it can be flimsy, or it's not built like a tank when the other controllers are, because there's a lot more parts to break in it. So say if like a button gets kind of screwed up, or like, this happened to me before, you push forward on the left thumbstick, L1 aims in or something like that when you're playing first person shooter. That's when you have to take it apart, pull it off, and reconnect the pins in there. It's a pain in the ass. So be careful. Send your defect controllers back to Sony if you cannot fix it. So yeah, that's number 2. Number 1, you may be thinking, why is this number 1? It's kind of surprising. And my number 1 favorite controller so far. Now, my opinion may change over time. You never know. So here it is, the Wii U Pro controller. Why is this my favorite? Well, it has the shape of a 360 controller and the feel of a PlayStation 3 controller. Well, why is that? When you hold it, it feels like a 360 controller. The way the thumbsticks are set up, it's a PlayStation 3 controller. And they rotate very smoothly, click in very nice, and then you have your buttons on the top, L and R, and they click in very nice. They don't feel cheap. Then your ZL, ZR buttons, they feel kind of cheap, but they work for what they do. And then you have, on the other side, a very nice textured thumbsticks, or very nice textured thumbsticks. Then you got your B, A, Y, X buttons. They click in very nicely, and you have to make sure they actually click in all the way, because almost bought one at GameStop. One of the buttons didn't work. Thank God I went back and fixed it, because that would have been bad. D-pad is very nice. Nintendo got the D-pad right with this, and they got kind of right in the Wii, but they got a normal sized D-pad finally. So there you go. Then you got your start and select buttons, basically your plus and minus buttons, pretty much similar to the Wii. Home menu button, and then your power button. Turn like the Wii U on from here. So pretty much, it just feels perfect. And unlike the 360 controller, the 360 controller has a big battery pack or whatever coming out of the side, so your fingers pretty much restricted to movement. But this, no, you can have it. You have free motion, which is awesome. And the battery life on this controller lasts much longer than the PlayStation 3 controller's battery, and much more than the 360's, because that has the lowest of all of them. So yes, this so far is my favorite controller so far. Very easy to sync up to your Wii U. It's not compatible with all games on the Wii U right now. Luckily, they did update the new Super Mario Bros. U, and I imagine it's on new Super Luigi U, where you can use the Pro Controller to play the game instead of just the gamepad. I mean, I'm okay with the gamepad, but it'd be nice just to, sit down and play the game casually with, just a normal button or a normal controller. Yes, that's my top 5 favorite controllers as of now. I'm not gonna make another one in the future unless you're curious about a different point of view, or top 5 least favorite controllers, or most hated controllers. There's some I hate, some I like. I might just do like least favorite, not hated, because there are some controllers I really don't like. So anyway, that's all I got to say. I'm Alex, and I will see you later. Peace.